Good evening, everybody. Bienvenidos, benvenuti, bonjour, falcha. Welcome, everybody, to another glowing edition of Liam's Lively Jukebox with me, the one and only Liam. Now, I know I haven't been on in a while, but I've been too busy preparing the last episodes of season 2 of the Jukebox, which today, if you may notice, I'm dressed a little bit differently. I'm dressed ready to do something. Can you wonder what I'm doing? That's right, I am cooking today. Just fixing my collar because it's a wee bit out of shape. And today we're going to be doing some baking, which is designed specifically for kids. Now, what we're going to be doing is one of my personal favourites, which I did with my niece not so long ago, is my classic chocolate chip cookies recipe. And it is simple, only 4 ingredients are needing to be used, and an oven. Simple as that. So you're going to watch me do this recipe step by step. I'm going to tell you what you will need as well, and all the different things in between. So what are you going to need? You're going to need 150 grams of butter. You see, I had to put this in a mug, just to keep it safe. You need to have 175 grams of flour. Now, in case you didn't see, that's flour. 70 grams of sugar, okay? And finally, probably the most important ingredient, 50 grams of chocolate chips. Now, you can buy pre-made chocolate chips, but I got cooking chocolate and just chopped it up, so to the same equivalent. All right, now, what's the first rule when in a kitchen? You have to wash your hands. So I have to go over here, like so. Always remember, use soap, like so. Washing my hands off the screen. Washing my hands like so. Wash it for 10-15 seconds and then dry them off, ready to start. Okay? Now, in a moment, I'm going to switch the camera and I'm going to show you how to do this, okay? And I hope you enjoy it and get ready for a wonderful recipe of chocolate chip cookies. So, ready to turn the camera in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so for the first time ever, I'm actually behind the camera. As you can see, my lovely partner and I were preparing for Christmas. A lot of recipes are being done. Oh, discovered just a wee wet mark there. And I'm going to show you how to do this recipe bit by bit. Now, the first thing you need to do is to heat the oven, which is actually behind me, at 180 degrees. And while it is preheating, you now start preparing the recipe. So the first thing you need to put in is the butter, which I've got my spatula here. Always handy. A silicone spatula is always really, really good because it's easy. Well, for me anyway, it's very easy on the wrist to use. So always good to have butter at room temperature because it makes it easier to mix as well. Then you've got your sugar, like so, and you mix. Now what you do is that you literally, what I do sometimes, instead of me beating it, I don't use a beater. I don't use a mixer for this. I use my hands to mix in the butter and the sugar because it makes it so much easier to get it to work in. You just fold it in. You have to make sure all the sugar is literally in the butter so that it is ready to give it the moisture. The moisture that is needed for this. Now I'm trying to keep my hands off screen because it is quite slippy, actually trying to do this. Sometimes a mixer is handy but for me, I've had too many bad incidents with a mixer where everything has gone flying, so I had to find a simpler method, and therefore this is the easiest one. Now you only have to do this for a couple of minutes. That should get everything in nice and soft, nice and smooth, and sort of like as you can see, I have a very, very smooth texture here, which is very, very good, because I'm actually feeling my way around to see if there are any lumps or bumps, and then that means I'm squishing them out. It's like literally squishing them out like mud, It's like you're taking out all the iron, everything out, and that's I'm usually quite strict when it comes to stuff like this as well, so I'm really particular as well when it comes to this. Okay. Ooh. And it looks good so far. So you have like a buttery base there as well, so hopefully that has come into effect. Okay, so there we go. That should be good. Just have to rinse my hands a second because it's all covered in butter. Sometimes you get a nice sugary base on this one. Now these cookies I actually enjoy making because simply because they're very, very easy to make. And the next thing we need to add in is the flour. So you sprinkle the flour in. I usually just put the whole lot in. I'm putting the chocolate chips in the moment, but it's just to try and mix the butter and the flour in together. And it is a bit of a trial and error method that I have worked with to get this right, because sometimes I've had to add more flour or in some cases more butter to try and get it more sufficient, as they say, as well. It's one of those things, but I do enjoy baking, and that's why I'm so glad to finally do this episode with you all and to get it really on point as much as possible. Now, usually initially what I do is same when I'm doing bread. It's usually I mix it with a spatula first, and then I use my hands to sort of mix the rest in, and therefore I've got my mixture, I've got my batter. Now, cookies as well do not need to be like a cake, not necessarily a cake texture, which is sort of softer, but like usually my cookies tend to be more of a shortbread texture, so it's a little bit tougher than normal. But it's easy to find something so simple actually works. So, oops. My partner might not be happy with me devouring bits of flour around the kitchen, but I have to make sure I'll clean this up afterwards, but which will be the case. So, now, as you can see, you've got a nice sort of texture coming together very nicely. And now what I'm going to do next is the fun part, the chocolate chips. Now what I tend to do is I tend to scatter them gradually. Now, as you can see, they're not the conventional chocolate chips, they're quite chunkified, but I think I really prefer it that way. And then there's some like thin ones as well, so there's going to be very much a difference in texture. And now what I do is that I start to now use my hands and really mix these in, because you know what, to get the best of these cookies now, and this is something I learned actually when doing this with my niece, is that the more butter I used, the more moisture I had, so obviously they turned out more nummy as well, and they go well with a cup of tea, I must say. I do apologise, my hands are probably covered in flour, cookie mix, you know, that sort of thing, but it is one of those things. It is one of those things, and it has turned out really, really nicely. It is coming together nicely. This recipe I actually found, which I would credit in the information below this video, it was actually a simple recipe I found by chance, because I was looking for something to do during the initial quarantine. So the initial quarantine period in March 2020, you know, like to find something to do, you know, to combat the boredom, had loads of stuff in the house, so I thought, right, what can I do to bake something a wee bit fun? And then I found this. I also found this same source had like donuts, they had cookies, they had flapjacks, they had quite a lot of different recipes, which was really, really good. Now I'm trying to mix as much in as possible so that it doesn't, as you can see, I'm sort of rolling it around to make sure that it hits the spot like so. So as you can see, all the recipes are it's all coming together rather nicely. So I'm trying to make sure that there's no flour actually exposed in this, because then you don't want a floury base, you know, that sort of thing. You want it to be as smooth and as delicate as possible. Now obviously because I'm moving this, the bowl is sliding along with me, so that's the way it normally goes. So alright, so this process should take about 5 to 7 minutes roughly. And always, and kids, remember, if you are working with, I always advise that kids, if you're going to do this, make sure an adult is with you, so in case you're cutting or putting things in, just to give you an extra hand. Alright, and especially when working with an oven to avoid burns, make sure an adult is there to help you to put your mixtures in, because health and safety is most important when you're in a kitchen. Health and safety is probably more important than the actual food itself, to be honest. Right, so there you go. I have a mix now. Now we have to move to the next step. Now I have to move some of the bowls into the sink, because they'll be, once I put these in the oven, I'm going to be washing them. So that's what I'll be doing next. So I'm going to be saying hi, you know, so from the background. So just, you all probably can hear me, so that's, which is always good. Alright, so what do we do next? Now, luckily I have my notes here, so that's to keep me, this is just something to keep me right when I'm doing this. So I've rolled the dough into, so mix the flour, mix the dough. So the first step, always remember, is to beat sugar and butter together, or mix it with your hands. Then you mix the flour and the chocolate chips, as we've got now a dough. Now what we do next is with the dough, grab a bit of the dough, turn it into a walnut shape like so, and then flatten with your pan. And then you put it on the baking sheet. This is going to go into the oven, so you keep doing it until you have no mixture left. Try and keep them as even as possible. Sometimes this is easier said than done. But it is doable. So as you can see, just show you again, walnut, pan. Just like another one, roll, walnut, press. Then you can roll it again. And then you keep doing it until, as I say, when the mixture. Now, I've been dying to do an episode like this for so long. I just have not even got round to doing this yet, because obviously of different circumstances and different things like that. I just didn't have the time to really sit and do this, but because it is Christmas, I thought, now is a good time to do this. Now, if anyone who is watching this episode, there are going to be 3 episodes this week. There's going to be this, there's going to be another episode on Wednesday. So there's going to be another episode on Wednesday with talking about Drag Race around the world. So I'll be talking about it, not talking about the US one exclusively. I'll be talking about the international versions like Thailand, España, Italia, and so on. UK, Down Under, Canada. And I'll be talking about my favourite queens, because I have to say I recently just watched the Canadian one. Probably one of my favourite seasons of Drag Race I have ever watched, so I think it's safe to say it is better. So as you can see, and then my last episode is going to be a Christmas special, so it's going to be like literally it's going to be a fun bonanza essentially. So that's what it's going to be. So as you can see, so each batter or dough can make up to about ranging from about 14 to 16 cookies. So that's, and it is cheap enough, because it's on average. The most expensive part is the butter. The butter is probably the most expensive ingredient, but the rest are quite cost effective. So that's why I would say. And what type of butter? Well, it actually depends. We'll see if I can try and make got a baby cookie. I've got one baby cookie. So that will be what we call a tester cookie. So that's our tester cookie. So I'm going to use that as well. Okay. Alright, so that's that done. So as you can see, so now I'm going to remove this. Okay, so 1 second, just rinse my hands off. Now, what we're going to be doing next, as you can see on this tray, I have about 15 cookies in total, and they are going to go in the oven at 180 degrees, and they're going to cook for about 15 minutes until they're about golden brown, and I'll take them out and show you the results as well. Okay, so what we're going to do next is, so I'm going to just turn the camera to where the oven is. So, as you can see, these are going to go in. Like so. Ooh, it's hot. They'll go in now to cook, and they'll cook for about 15 minutes. So, I will just wait and see how they turn out. Okay, so now we're going to wait, and then stay tuned, because in the next part of this video I'm going to show you the results, and I hope you've enjoyed this. So for the moment I'm going to clean, so I'll be back in 1 second. So we'll wait for the results in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we're just over 10 minutes in, so cookies are looking good. I'm pretty content. And join me in, and we're not going to wait a few minutes, and then I'll take them out ready to come. So get ready for some lovely cookies. Got those cookies, got those cookies, got those cookies. Anyway, before I do get them out, I just want to say to everybody who is watching this video and along with my other videos, thank you very much for your support over over 2021. Okay, I will be doing a full speech in my last episode, but just say thank you again for all the subscribers, feedback, comments, enjoying my reels on Instagram and everything else. So it's very much appreciated, and I hope you're enjoying this as much as I do. This is just like a fun project really I'm doing on the side, and hopefully to spread some of that positivity around the world. So hope you enjoy it, and I hope you get to see the final product in a moment. So here we go. Ready? In. So we're going to jump 5 minutes from now in 3, 2, 1. So I just went to check on the cookies. They're nearly done, so they're just a little bit over 15 minutes. So if you have a different, depending on your oven, it could take up to 20 at most. Now, just in case everyone's wondering why I have a dog under my arm, this is my dog. Well, my partner, our dog, Colby, who is a Yorkie Ping. So it's a Yorkshire Terrier miniature pinscher rolled into one. You saying hello? You saying hello? Saying hello? He was obviously coming in on the rob, thinking, I wonder what Daddy has made in the kitchen so I can get some. But no, not this dog. He's not getting anything because it has chocolate in it. Never give dog chocolate, so never ever give dog chocolate. So, and he's now enjoying a little cuddle off me. So we have a few more minutes, and I've got my apron off because it's now coming to the end of the video. So it's coming to the end of the video, so I'll show you what the final product is. Alright, so hopefully you will enjoy it. Now who are you looking for? He's obviously looking for something, I don't know. You want to say hello to my dears, you know? No? Do you not want to say hello? He's a tired boy, so let him down. Alright, okay. Now, as I said earlier in the episode, there are going to be 2 more episodes this week, so as I say, today being Monday, I recorded it on Sunday night, but today, on Monday, we have the cookery episode. Then on Wednesday, I'm doing a Drag Race Around the World episode, and then Friday's episode, which will be on Christmas Eve, or Noche Buena in Spain, here in Spain, is going to be a Christmas special. Essentially 2021 in focus. It's the final episode of the season, and hopefully you will all enjoy it as well, as much as I have enjoyed making this season as well, because I went from 8 episodes to 10, so, and it has been a bit chaotic in the second half, but we managed to get everything done all in one go. And I can announce one thing, that there is going to be a season 3, which will be coming in spring 2022. Coming spring 2022. And I hope you enjoy what's to come. But more details will come near to the time. Alright, so hopefully, fast forward 3 minutes, fast forward 1, 2, 3 minutes. I'm ready to see the cookies. Okay, so the time has come to unveil the cookies. So I'm going to point my camera downwards. Okay. And as you can see, my dog has totally photobombed the shot. Typical, but I'm not complaining because it makes it good for entertainment purposes. What do you want? What do you want? Yeah. Alright, so first things first, switch the oven off. Okay. And then, do not forget your oven mitt, and then also if you have a hand towel, a dry hand towel, to also bring the tray out if you are not confident in 2 hands. Always make sure you have a trivet or a baking rack, as well a cooling rack to make sure to cool the cookies down, or anything that you're baking to cool it down. So it could take a few minutes for it to cool. And here we are. So as you can see, we have 15 beautiful cookies here. Now, you may have to give them a couple of minutes to cool off, to cool down, because once they cool, they firm. That's usually what I've learned from experience. So once they've cooled, then they'll firm up. So you usually give them about 5 or so minutes to cool down, because usually when they're fresh out of the oven, they're sort of a bit crumbly at the beginning. So my recommendation is to wait 5 to 10 minutes for it to cool down before you eat them. And they are very good with a cup of tea, hot chocolate, glass of milk. If any kids, if you want ideas for Santa Claus, you can also leave them a cookie or a mince pie. Something I think does have a sweet tooth, but I think mince pies are the #1 favourite, but also so are cookies. Okay, so that is really it. So remember everybody to like, subscribe, pass it on. My name's like Jukebox. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. The rest will be in the description below. Hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Stay tuned very soon, because we will have to wait 2 days for episode 9, Drag Race Around the World. Okay, this is them. Over and out. Bye.